Call the July workshop meeting to order. Public appearances. First, we have Mr. Jamie White with White Engineering and Design on the expanding sewer to a parcel on Ferguson Street outside of town limits. You may take the podium, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jamie White, White Engineering and Design out of Forest. I'm working with developer Scott Bloomfield. He has purchased his 3 lots together. There's an old house lot there that was 177 Ferguson, just outside of the town limits. Mr. Bloomfield is a residential home builder. He builds several different types of nice single-family detached homes and some multifamily work as well. What he's looking to do with this piece of property is we'd like to get it rezoned to R3 in the county to be able to do a townhouse development on there. Part of the requirements, obviously, for rezoning this is we need access to public water and public sewer. Currently, right now, the public water line runs down Ferguson Street and it can be served with public water with no issue. There is no public sewer right there in Ferguson Street to serve this piece of property. I know we talked with the previous town manager, Mr. McGee, and part of the process in order to extend sewer, since the town supplies the sewer in the area, in the general area, is to give approval for a sewer extension for this piece of property. What we would like to do, and obviously this is all will be worked out with the Public Works Department, and it's the developer's cost to extend the public sewer there. There's a manhole that's on Lee Grant near the entrance of the school. We want to expand that up to the intersection at Ferguson, run it up in the town limits on the town side of the road towards the bridge there, and then run a section over across Ferguson Street to serve this piece of property. What we're planning there, we don't have an exact layout of what we're trying to do there. We just need to see if sewer is available first before we go through the exercise to sell how many lots. We're planning on about 30 townhouse units at this location. So public sewer obviously would be something that we would definitely need to have. So that would be our request to the town to see if that's a possibility to extend to this lot. And I'll take any questions that you have.
You got anything on it?
We're going to tell you, it's been the policy not to do that. When Mr. Elder was here, and Ms. McGee, there was conversation about possibly doing the boundary line adjustment. So I think what we would need to do is to kind of come back and present council maybe a plan, see if that's acceptable to pursue.
That's the only way I'd be comfortable with this, because we're right at the edge of our sewer capacity as it is, and going back all the way to the development of Cannon Oaks behind it, I mean, you're talking 20 years of what I consider really poor planning decisions being made, because it's high density. This is 30 units of high density in that Ferguson pumping station cross-tie kind of corridor, and it's going to require the services that a town would need, and they're not going to be considered town residents. So I'm all for it. I'm all for development, but there are pockets of money, there are state level resources that we only get access to if the folks that are, in essence, our population are legally considered our population.
Right. So I don't know how great a detail it's been discussed, but Tori and David Carter and I, when this came up, we started kind of like a big picture idea maybe to present. So we would like to come back maybe next meeting and show you what we think could be possible to pursue this, if that's agreeable to council.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. We look forward to a more detailed presentation on the different choices to move this project forward. We thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I would be curious to see a site plan too, of what how the 30 units would lay out and what
Sure.
the features.
Okay. So, I mean, just to clarify, what the town's position would be is to do a boundary line adjustment for the town to
Correct.
encompass this property in order
Correct.
for it to be something that would be palatable for an extension of the public sewer.
Have you worked with VDOT yet on the entrance?
Say that again.
Have you talked to VDOT yet about the?
We haven't. I mean, Daniel would be our next step.
Right, okay.
Obviously, the sewer was the main issue to see if it was even something that was possible. Because we can't present an R3 rezoning
Right.
without it. So this was our first step. So what we'll do is we'll adjust and probably put a layout together for y'all to see what the development would be. Just questions that I would have, like time frame, how often is boundary line adjustments done in the town in order to, is that something that's,
It's going to require a public hearing,
Sure.
but we would need to see your preliminary site plan, your layout,
sure,
and go from there. But,
Okay.
I mean, by next council meeting, we should be able to have a staff presentation
okay.
to present.
And that would just take consent from the Board of Supervisors?
Possibly, I gotta figure out a little more
If
of
they
that.
petition, well, the current landowner would have to petition, right?
Correct.
And he
Okay.
owns the land?
Yes, he does own those 3 lots now.
Yeah.
So we would petition to
Yeah.
become inside the town boundary.
Yeah, I'll get you more information exactly how that will
All right.
work.
All right, thank you. All right, very good. Well, we'll look forward to putting something together and bringing it back to do that adjustment. I think this is I think it's a good potential project here in this location. We can get the sewer part worked out. I mean, obviously, we're happy to be a part of the town as part of the development, so that will go great. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Blair Smith from Dominion 7 on the ADA compliance review. Mr. Smith.
All right, good evening. So this is kind of a follow-up to what we had looked at before for you. You should have a copy of our report, and you will go through a presentation that's a summarized version of that tonight. Cindy's going to drive, and I'll do a little talking. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me as I go through there. So, back in the early 90s, the federal government decided to do something, and they created a Americans with Disability Act, and that was in 1990. And that kind of stimulated a lot of other things with local building codes. So we refer to ADA kind of generically as we would like Xerox for a copy machine. So they're kind of used interchangeably now. ADA actually is a federal law and not a state law. Virginia follows the Virginia Construction Code, and then their whole series of codes that go along with that. What we're specifically talking about tonight is the accessibility code, which is A117.1, and that was last updated in 2017. Just to give you a little perspective, Virginia is currently using the 2021 building code, it's Virginia Construction Code. Virginia is about 3 years behind updating codes, and that requires the state legislature to decide on that. And so they take the international code and modify it as they see best, and that's what creates the Virginia Construction Code. So tonight we're really just kind of looking at what you'll be responsible for, which is the accessibility code in Virginia. And so I've used that as a way of organizing the report that you have, the draft copy of the report that you have, and it's chapters 3 through 9, and we're going to kind of walk through those tonight. It's a lot more detail in the report. I didn't want to bore you to death kind of going through things. Cindy, you can go to the next one. So the first chapter is chapter 3, and this is what we refer to as the building blocks that architects use to design buildings. And so it would tell us basically how to design a bathroom, for example. It would tell us a lot of different things like the turning space that a wheelchair requires, clear floor spaces at elements. This would be a good example, how much space you need at a podium like this. When you're sitting at something like that, you need clear toe space and knee space. If you're coming to your reception counter here, you need the same thing. It also deals with operable parts. So like in the conference room door, you see a door lever. So back in the old days, it used to be a door knob. A door knob requires grabbing and twisting. Whereas the lever, you can put your elbow on it and push it open, right? And so that's what we're talking about with operable parts. You don't really have anything in the building that's protruding into a walkway, so it's listed, but it's not really an issue that we're concerned with. Okay, Cindy. So just kind of some general observations about your building. So this area was renovated maybe 15 years ago, and it was a nice upgrade from what it was. There was some consideration given to accessibility because you have a bathroom down here that's accessible by name only, and they put handrails in there. But outside of that, there wasn't much consideration given to making this floor, or even down in DMV, accessible. I don't know. We don't know who was involved with that at that point in time, and it may have been they didn't know what they were doing. We don't think there was a design professional like an architect involved with that. If they were, then they didn't do their job. But I don't think they were. The building code for this size building doesn't require an architect to sign and seal the drawings. Okay, but that doesn't mean that whoever did it shouldn't follow the building code, right? So that's one advantage you have when you have a design professional to do it. Make sure you're in compliance with the building code. Okay, Cindy. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is our building officials in the Central Virginia area are quite busy. It's very difficult for them to have time to do everything that they should be doing. Okay? And so their focus is not on accessibility. So when they get a set of drawings from whomever, they don't really look at it and say, well, that door is not accessible. That toilet is not accessible. That is not something they look at. They don't have time to deal with that. When they come out and do their inspections, they don't have time to do that, okay? And so that doesn't seem right, but it's just kind of the reality of the situation. And that's true in Appomattox, it's true in Lynchburg, and there are many things that are in the building code that are not picked up by the inspectors, okay? That doesn't get the architect off the hook because they're ultimately responsible for the drawings they produce. It technically doesn't even get the building owner off the hook either. Just because the inspector doesn't catch something, it's still responsible by the building owner to make sure things are done right. And so what the building official is really looking for, they're looking at life safety things. Do you have an exit sign? Are the doors to the outside, are they swinging out in the direction that you're traveling? Is the electrical service done correctly? Is the HVAC plumbed correctly? That's what they're looking at, okay? They're looking at the major things. They're not looking at some of the minutia in the building code. I give you a good example of that. We do a lot of multifamily stuff, okay? So the code says you have to have acoustical rating between apartments. Okay, the wall separating apartments has to have an acoustical rating on it. And also, if they're stacked, they have to have the floor has to be that way too. Inspectors don't check it. They don't have a way of checking it. They don't understand it. But I'm responsible for it or I'll lose my license. Okay. So the two small offices you have in the front here, the two small offices are actually down in the DMV. They're not accessible. Okay. And so those are problems to deal with, and we're talking about, some of the building blocks we have to deal with. The other things that you have going on that were mentioned in our previous report is when this building was renovated, no one took into account any fire ratings. And so the hall out here is a means of egress. So if there was a fire, you would go out that way to exit, right? So those hallways should have a fire rating on them. That means the doors should have a closer. They should be fire rated. Actually, this is a mixed-use building, so we have this space, which is an assembly space. Okay, now there are not that many people in it tonight, but it could be. The spaces on either side of it are business use. And so since the building is not sprinkled, that wall and this wall should have a fire rating on it. That means that door and this door should have a fire rating and a closer. So as we start to make changes, there's this trickle-down effect that's a problem. If we make your toilet back here bigger to be handicap accessible, it's going to move into the corridor. Well, do you make that corridor wall then have a fire rating and make sure it's done right? And so this is the problem with making some of the ADA changes. You know, it's just not putting a sign on the door and saying this is an accessible bathroom. The other thing, and we mentioned this before, is a lot of the materials in here. Your bathrooms are a great example. You have a pedestal sink in these bathrooms. Great for a residence, it's not accessible. Okay? Mirrors in those bathrooms, not accessible. So it was made to look nice without really consideration of the code. Okay, so chapter 4 talks about the accessible route. So this begins at the parking lot to the main entrance of the building and then inside the building. And so one of the challenges you have is the doors. A good example of that would be this door here. There has to be a certain amount of space beside the door if you're pulling it open or you're pushing it. And half the doors on this floor don't comply with that. Okay? And so that seems like a small thing, but your hallways are so small, they're narrow, or it may be the placement of the door in this case that's a problem that creates those problems. We've talked before about the ramp out here not being compliant. The stairs aren't either, for that matter. Cindy? What's happening outside is you currently have 2 parking spaces over here that are handicap accessible and 1 down below. There's a lot of detail in the report that talks about why those parking spaces over here aren't compliant. It's because of the slope. It's not only the slope from front to back, it's the cross slope as well. And so that's a relatively easy fix. You can make one of them over here handicap accessible. You only need 2 for the building. The one down below needs to be striped. That's all that needs to be done there. Those are quick and easy fixes. The other thing that I want to point out is the Virginia Construction Code, not the Accessibility Code, basically says that if you have an employee work area, it needs to be accessible. Okay? And so what does that mean for you? It means that if you were to hire somebody who's in a wheelchair, you could wait and make the modifications at that point in time, or you go ahead and make them now. This will be true in here too. So you have a step up. It's typical in meeting rooms. This is about 7 inches. And you know, what if, Nathan, if you're in a wheelchair, then we have a non-accessible situation here. That doesn't mean you need to change it today. It means you could add a ramp over here in the future to get you up here. And so when we talk about accessibility, we're not just talking about someone who's permanently disabled, okay? It could be that, you know, somebody breaks their leg and they're short-term disabled, but we still need to provide access for them. Okay, Cindy. Plumbing, I mentioned the sinks that are back here. You don't have an accessible toilet. The ones downstairs, those are relatively easy to correct. You need water fountains. There are no water fountains in this building. They have to be dual height. You may say, wow, they have to be dual height. Well, if somebody's in a wheelchair, they need a low one. But if it's somebody who has a bad back, once again, could be permanently disabled from that standpoint, they can't bend over so low. And so that's the reason for having 2. It used to be that you could get away by offering one of these bubblers, you know, that you would actually have a glass, but the code has gotten away from that and doesn't allow it anymore. You don't have any janitorial sinks in the building. That's a building code issue and not a accessibility issue. Okay. I don't know, and maybe you know, does your system offer a assisted listening? So this space is required. If somebody came in and they have a hard time hearing, is they would be able to tap into your PA system to hear. And that may be something you could easily add on to your system. I don't know, but that is a requirement. Okay. The other thing, and you're fine here because you don't have fixed seating, which is good, but there always should be a space that's large enough for a wheelchair. Okay, and so if I come with a wheelchair and Tori's been helping me, it's not only a space for the wheelchair, it's a space for her to sit beside me as well. But there's plenty of space up here front, and so it's not really an issue, and you have plenty of room because of the number of chairs that you use. This podium should be, what do you do if you have somebody in a wheelchair that's addressing you? I mean, they can't stand here and do this, so that's another challenge that you have. You have a kitchenette down here that's in the closet. It's not accessible, okay? Interestingly enough, the refrigerator is the way it's designed, but you have a countertop with a microwave on it, and it's not accessible. So the last thing we'll kind of talk about is furnishings and the fixtures. And so the service counter, the reception desk here, they're not accessible for a number of reasons. It's kind of outlined in our report. Those need to be reworked so that you can deal with someone who's handicapped. In y'all's space, there was this fold-down metal. There's a picture of it in the report that someone put in to make that area accessible. It's not compliant. So whoever sold you that, it's not a compliant fixture. Okay. So our report kind of lists a variety of things that needs to be addressed. You can nickel and dime those. You can do them all at once. It's kind of up to you. I wanted to point out the bottom part of this. So if we move a wall, so let's say the hallway that goes back to the town manager's office is too narrow, okay? If you decide to add a foot to it, what happens? Well, it impacts the adjacent room and impacts the ceiling, which then could impact your light fixtures, which you could then impact, the duct work. And so these things, it's just trickle-down effect. Cindy, if you go to the next slide. And I gave you part of this in your report, because once again, it's a draft. You can see here, this would be the change to make that a accessible toilet, but the other changes around it that would be required to make that area accessible. But you have the same problem up here with these two small offices. You have the same problem, I didn't draw it, you have the same problem down the DMV. Okay? And so what do you do when we start to move things? Because when we start moving walls, you're going to be changing the carpet, the ceiling, the doors, the whole 9 yards. When we demolish this stair and ramp, that's going to shut you down. You're going to have to move out, for a time being. So those things make kind of a challenge for you. Go ahead, Cindy, the next one. And then there are other things. This drawing shows the fire ratings on the walls, okay? And so we would be switching out doors, the door frame, making sure the walls go up to the deck. This has to be changed. I don't know what the solution is to it. I didn't take the time to try to figure that out. And you get into this and you say, well, aren't we grandfathered in? Okay? And so, once again, these changes should have been made 15 years ago when you did this renovation. Do you need to do something today? The answer is no. Should you do it because it's the right thing to do for serving your population that's not as accessible as the rest of us? Yeah. But this is kind of a morality question for you more so than anything else. Okay, Cindy. So there's some other things too that if we start going down this path, it still need to do. The wall here, the wall across Linden Street over here really needs to be waterproof because you got water coming in the building. This needs a new roof. Your HVAC system is at its lifespan. The electrical system is at its lifespan, okay? Your light fixtures, there are no occupancy sensors on them. That really should be added, They've got a little more life to them. I'm not saying you need to replace those today. But as you start going down this path, what else should you be doing? And I'm not trying to get you to do more than you want to, because I know that's an issue too, but it's just things to be concerned with. Okay, Cindy. Okay. The other challenge that you have is if we are making these front offices accessible, you're losing an office. Okay? What are your future needs? Because I wouldn't do any of this work until I knew what your future needs were going to be. It's no use making changes that you have to come back and change down the road. And so I think this was part of the issue from before is what do you need for the future? You're going to have to do the same thing we talked about before when we were doing a much larger project, is you'd have to relocate in most cases to kind of make a lot of these changes. And so you can certainly do the ramp as a standalone project, but that means people have to come in this door. It's gonna be a multi-month thing to replace just the ramp and stairs. And so ideally you want that to occur when you do the renovations here. Once again, it just depends on how you want to phase it, how much do you want to do. Okay, Cindy. So once again, we talked about this trickle-down effect. I think figuring out what you want to do with this building. Do you stay here? Do you go somewhere else? Are you going to need the lower? If we're reducing office size or making the offices bigger here, do you need to go downstairs? And so that's still a question out there. Ideally, the best way to do this, the most cost-effective way to do this, is to do it as one project versus a bunch of small projects that you add up. Okay, because you have inflation working against you over time, but also just do it, get it done with, and have the disruption done one time. And so that's a real big question as we move forward. I know one of the things that you want are some costs associated for doing these things. The cost could be here, it could be here. I need direction from you to really help you with cost. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
In your plan, the original plan that you and Terry had worked on, where there could be finished space downstairs, did that proposal cause, in terms of lower level waterproofing, were you calling for excavating the entire exterior, or would it be something like an interior French drain for water remediation?
I would say you could do either. The answer is you could do either, right? It's the French drain, you just bring water into the building and then you're having to get rid of it. It just seems kind of foolish to introduce water into your building. I'd rather excavate the outside and do it right.
And you think with the age of this building, we could have a actual sealed exterior, renovating, I guess, down to the footer and
Right, you're going to want to use, if you go around and look at people who build houses, they're going to use a spray-on material. That's not waterproofing. That's just water resistant. The best way to do it is you're using a membrane to seal it up, and then you're backfilling it with something that's porous, and then it has the French drains in it to get everything out.
So in terms of, let's say, council, we wanted to stay in this building. Could we, if we went for the full, bells and whistles package, or if we went for even a reduced package of that, take the time now, renovate the lower level, and then once that's done, phase it, move into the lower level, all of our functions, even if it's a little cramped for all of our offices, whatever, temporarily move down there, and then renovate the upstairs, and then in 2 years we have a finished renovated building. Would that be possible?
That's certainly possible, yeah. There are people that rent temporary partitions and walls and stuff. That's probably what I would do downstairs, is to do something so it's not costing you a whole lot of money. I think ultimately you're going to need that lower level renovated.
Right.
Blair, in the original proposal y'all made us on the renovations we were looking at, I don't know how many months ago, did it accommodate all the changes in here that you're seeing or presenting to us today that need to be accommodated?
Yeah.
So that plan would be if we took it with some slight modifications, be a good go forward if we're going to maintain the location as the town offices.
Right. That had an elevator in it. Maybe you don't do the elevator, right?
Right.
That had a slope roof on it. Maybe you don't do the slope roof. It was a way of dressing up the outside,
Right. I understand that. There were some items in there that were nice to have, somewhat aesthetic. There was one that deemed us necessary to go up and down inside the building all the time, which there could be plans to change that so that we're only downstairs during council meeting nights.
Right, and I think that's what makes the most sense, is
Yes.
council is downstairs, right?
Yes.
And you just keep all the office up here. I think that's,
I mean, that's a viable plan, and that would probably cut the cost of that one, specifically the cost of the elevator, removing that out of the plan would bring it down in a substantial amount, plus maintenance of an elevator over 50 years. But,
I mean, if I did anything right now, the first thing I do, I would seal that door so that nobody can go downstairs. I don't think you want them using those stairs. I think it's too much liability for you.
Agree.
this is too much detail, but would those stairs have to be replaced if we didn't put the elevator in and don't plan on access from upstairs to downstairs?
I would just,
Other than, yes, it's good to stay at the weather.
those stairs are concrete, it's poured concrete, it costs you a fortune to take them out. It may just be simpler just to leave them and encapsulate them, so that nobody has access to them. But that then would require staff to walk around the building to get to
Understand that.
county council.
Couldn't
all
you just
kinds
build
of weather, that's
the
not
way that
good.
it's laid, couldn't you build a platform and then a turning step?
There's several problems with those stairs. I mean, if first of all, there's no landing at the top.
Right.
That's one thing. They're too long and they're too steep.
Right.
Is the other thing. Now, you can say, well, I'm gonna live with that. You'd want to replace the handrail too, because it's not in compliance.
Sure.
I mean, you can make it better than it is. It's not gonna be perfect.
But I think, I don't know the actual measurements of it, but to me, I think we could come down, go out, build that upstairs landing, go down half, and then do a right angle turn.
Oh, you're kind of
You can build
overbuilding.
over
You're
it.
kind of over, yeah, I guess you could probably do that. There's a steel beam that runs across. If you open up that door, you'll see it's a steel beam, so there's some headroom issues. You'd have to kind of work through that.
Sure,
Could you do it? The answer is probably yes. It's just overbuilding, yeah.
sure, okay.
What's the most economical way to do this?
To do this
To do
work,
the project, to
same way it was conceived before, maybe you do less, but
Yeah.
you want to get out of it and just knock it out. Now, do you do what the mayor's suggesting and maybe try to do something downstairs first, or, and I worry about noise. I worry about noise and dust and debris. I worry that if we replace the electrical system, then you'll keep one operating while the other one goes in, and it's never perfect. If you're willing to deal with some of those things, you don't have to move out, then that's,
Would it be advantageous to maybe rent a small portable office to put staff into the office so that,
yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, that's, I think that's an ideal thing. I mean, we did a project in Nottaway years ago, and it was for the clerk of the court. And I got a call one day from the judge. I got a summons to come to Nottaway to appear before the judge. And the contractor couldn't keep the clerk's office dry and clean. And you had all those records there. And he was mighty mad. And I found an article in the newspaper in Blackstone where I had told the Board of Supervisors that their best decision that they could make would be to move out of the space while it was being renovated. And so that's the only thing that kept me out of jail, I think. But once he saw that, he gave orders to the county administrator to relocate people. But I don't think you have that type of situation here. It's just, it's a hassle.
This is part of the planning of the project. And whether we have to completely remove ourselves from the building while it's being done, or can we do it in stages? I've dealt with it in many different aspects of my career.
And this is not a big space. It's only 3,300 square feet on this floor. I mean, it's not like it's a big office building. It's not like it's a school that you can do part of, and then move to another part. It's just, you do one thing, it's gonna be a mess.
it's just like redoing an old home. You
And you're
get
gon-
started and think it's gonna be easy, and the plumbing falls apart. Something, I mean, I used to sell real estate, and I'm telling you, I've seen all kinds of things.
And you can find things you don't know
That's right.
that's out there because it's an existing building. I don't know I don't know if this is asbestos in this building. That had been tested.
Oh my, that could open another whole can.
I don't think anything, I mean, once again, you know, what's under this carpet here, is it floor tile? I don't know. I just don't know. That would be part of the process.
Well, I think if we do anything, we need to do it right. Just putting a Band-Aid on part of it is probably gonna cost more in the long run.
And the problem is costs keep going up.
That's another thing.
Tell you.
While we've got some, we need to do what we can, as much as we can, and get it that will last us as long as it will. You don't want to have to revisit it again anytime soon.
Would it not be advantageous if they were gonna move this room downstairs to put it there and fix it and leave it there? And then use this room for
That would be my recommendation, yes.
office spaces? That would give a lot of office space.
I think it
us
still
a
goes
long
back
ways
to
in the future.
what your needs are going to be in the future, and I think that's still kind of a gray area. You know, like how many offices do you need? You know,
Depends on how many townhouses we can get built.
yeah, maybe.
Well, from having worked out, and well, I worked at Liberty some too, and they would constantly take a plan for a new building and trim it about 25% or more. Make it a little smaller and all that stuff. You move in it, and in 6 months you've outrun it. Of course, they're growing mighty rapidly. But, I mean, that can be a problem too. You got to take the time to look and to see what we're going to have to deal with in the future and try to factor in to what you do for us so that it'll serve us for a while.
I think that's the first job is, I think your job is to be good stewards of public money, right? And that doesn't mean not spending money, it means to spend money in a wise manner. And I think that would be my recommendation to you. You have all kinds of information from us. I think you need to figure out what you want. And if you don't know what you want, then we're all just kind of wasting our time. But that's the prudent thing to do.
Any other questions to Ms. Smith? Sir, we thank you for the presentation. We will try to get something to you so that we could get a plan.
Yeah. And I'm happy if you need some more stuff. I know I've just kind of given you a draft report. I mean, we can continue to update it based on whatever feedback you can give me. Give me more direction on what you want to do. I can probably give you a better idea of cost. But right now, I need some feedback from y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. At this time, we'll open the public hearing to receive public comments concerning the following items: amendments to the fiscal year 2024 budget of the town of Appomattox in accordance with Section 15.2-2506 of the Code of Virginia, specifically general fund expenditure amendments and revenue amendments in the amount of $664,288, and water fund expenditure and revenue amendments in the figure of $45,000. Is there any public comment to this? No, that's both of them. Revenue and expense of each, expense and revenues of each. Seeing no public comment, I close this public hearing at this time. Our next item is a proclamation by the town council honoring the 2023-2024 Alamance County High School FFA chapter. I'd like to entertain a motion to,
Move that we accept the resolution.
Second.
motion made and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. We'll make this proclamation at the next town council meeting. Second Monday, we will invite the FFA chapter officers and to attend. Finally, discussion on the anniversary commemorative festival, the centennial of the town of Appomattox.
So, I just have some thinking items. I guess two that are pertinent. One, I went back through the town files, and I did find a file folder that had all of the documents from 1990. When would that have been? Yeah, 1999, 2000. They established a separate committee, and they had a board on that committee, and they sent out requests for funding to like Williams Pipeline and the Farmers Bank and other businesses and individuals. They raised probably a couple $1,000s. I think the bulk of the event was still funded though by the town, I would imagine. We just need to decide, do we want to hold an event? If so, we need to set a date. And the thing about that event was that it coincided with the opening of the one-way renovated Main Street, I believe. So it was kind of a big deal because of all that, and they got people out. So do we want to do an event? If yes, pick a date and probably put together a committee of people to run it. If not, then come up with some other commemorative thing. And I have ideas to what those could be, but it just depends on what we want to do and the why. So at the next meeting, I can come up with language for creation of a committee of a mix of council and potentially community members. And we can have them answer that question, or if anybody feels strongly about what they want to do, talk about it tonight.
I just think you should include the Historical Society because they have funding they can help with, and they just have a wealth of information. You know that. They're small, but they have, they have active members. They'd be a valuable resource.
So Rob, we got an update on the streetscape project, when that gonna be finished?
For what for which section?
Very Green to the bridge, that little section.
I do not. I'll touch base. I think most of the work's been done.
How long are we looking for having, if we did have it?
The event would be, if it were on the true centennial, I believe it's like June 15th or something. June 2nd? Yeah,
Oh,
of 2025.
So
Be a summer
that could be
time.
a stretch, instead of Main Street.
No, that's a Tuesday.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd have room for people to be there if you plan to do it.
I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Timmy, because we never tend to celebrate that part of town. Too, so.
Yeah, you've got businesses that could engage. You've got room for people to park. It's not a bad idea.
Nice.
I'm all for pulling in the public for money and stuff, but these businesses get hit by everybody that comes down the street. And I think if we're gonna do it, we need to fund it. I'm not saying if Farmers Bank wants to put a sign up, they give us something for that, or advertising or something. It's a little bit different, but I don't think we should be hitting the businesses up for no
But
money.
yeah, and it depends on how much money we need.
We're not planning on spending a lot.
The thing, so the oddball idea that I really have kind of stuck on, one of my clients, I had the opportunity to go out and see what he does, and he's one of the, I think, 3 or 4 bronze casting foundries that's still functional in the United States. They're really cool. They're right off of 95 in, I think, in Rico County. So they're based in Virginia. But I thought it'd be cool to have a centennial bell for the town. And I don't know what that would cost, but it wouldn't be exactly super cheap. But it is something that would last at least another 100 years. And it would
Just
be
an
cool.
active bill, actually works bill,
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
It'd be kind of cool. It would be a nice thing.
Gotta have the right tone.
Yep. We could go out and take a picture and then Rico and pour the bell. It'd be
I'll
cool.
share more with you about that later.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, I think it's good to have a thing, to have something, yeah.
Everybody needs to investigate why we got rid of all of our bills in the past in our history. It's for a reason. So we need a bill back.
Cool. I thought that was going to be a much tougher sell. That's great.
No, obviously not.
Yeah, and I think it does, I mean, I hate to speak for the Historical Society, but they really might be able to carry some of this for you.
So who is the historical society?
I would hit up, well, you got like Philip Jamerson, Carolyn Davis, Dee Dee.
Who's local?
Yeah.
It's the-
They would love to be involved. I know Carolyn would, because she's invested a lot of time and stuff. So, and they're able to. Philip's able to coordinate volunteers for things too. He just makes things happen.
So it sounds like we want to have a commemorative
An
day.
event, yeah.
So we got to come up with the details now.
I think that'd be great, and I think the bell would be nice. Where would you think it would go?
The depot?
Could be. Yeah.
Where? The
The
depot?
It could also be an opportunity, I mean, the logical places would either be the depot and Main Street. Here, if we were to renovate and do something with this space, or some other space that could potentially be a center for foot traffic moving forward as downtown grows or whatever, and you could build a nice landscaped area around it. And it doesn't have to be all at once. We have to pay for it all right now. It could be a park-style setting that we can invest in the future.
And you gotta make sure there's not a way for somebody to pilfer it either.
Yes.
High traffic, high visibility, low probability of relocation. All right.
Isn't it a shame you have to think about that?
No, it's a shame if you don't think about it, then it
Well,
happens.
that's true, but I mean, I hate to think that people would do that. But they would.
I'll come back to the next meeting with some more thoughts.
Anyone knows of any organizations or persons that you think would be very good for the committee, try to get in touch with them, see if their willingness to be on the committee,
Okay. Nathan, you want
each of you. But yes,
Carolyn's phone number?
Yeah, that,
Okay. I think she could coordinate the emails, and you tell her, she send it out, and then they meet every third Tuesday of the month. So that would give them time to plan it, and if they want to do something extra with it, you know what I mean? They need members, they need support, so maybe it would help them and help us, kind of thing.
always good. All right. Our next item is the amendments to the FY 2024 budget for the town of Appomattox, as previously presented in the public hearing, and hearing no public comment. Council, do you have any comments on this issue? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion that we pass the proposed amounts as presented in the public hearing.
Sorry, what was do we have a, I guess, line item of what the breakdown was for?
Yeah, let's see, let me get with you on the here. The 45,000, that was for, debt that we incurred unexpectedly, the Church Street water line. We had a little extra legal, and we had to order some water meters because of supply and demand. So it equaled about 45,000 over budget.
Okay.
Okay, and then the larger amount was for downtown revitalization that we put in extra. I waited till the end, closer to the, well, yeah, that project is over. Waited to see how much the town would incur, even though we had already pre-approved 500,000 at last year. But I'm bringing forward something you discussed last year because the project is complete now. So we know we do need it.
Okay.
And then we had, the depot went a little over. Let's see, I had some grants coming in. Council costs went a little over on some of the activities this year. Tourism was a little over, and capital improvements went a little over. That's what's all mixed in that larger number.
Okay.
When we look at the end of the year and see where we landed. So that's what, that, and to be clear, that's for last year's budget, not the one we're in and you had in front of you today.
And do we have any outstanding legal balance, or has everything been paid to zero?
To where?
Frank Wright.
When you say balance, meaning?
Do we have a, do we have unbilled amounts from them?
I'm assuming we continuously have a bill with them. You know what I mean? Are you thinking for one particular?
For the, I guess, the April, May
okay, I got
time
you.
period.
I guess, I would think so, the way they bill and the
Okay.
timing. I'm thinking this far down, we do.
Okay.
Yeah, he bills monthly,
So we paid
so.
through that.
And I just prepared the June one today, and that was for June services. So I'm
Okay.
assuming we're not seeing that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Entertain a motion?
Move that we adopt the amended budget as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? By roll call vote, Ms. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Boyce,
Yes.
Ms. Puckett,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson,
Yes.
Ms. Spiegel is absent. By vote 5-0, motion carries. Thank you. Council comments. Mr. Simpson.
I think we just reiterate to Mr. Bloomfield that we're incredibly supportive of new residential development. We just, you know, if our population is going to increase by 60 or 90 or 100 people by use of services and people on our roads and everything else, then the population needs to increase on paper too, and that's kind of what we're pushing for with the boundary line.
I agree.
You think we should maybe do that as a lump thing, not only, a little bit of Ferguson, but, go on and talk about the expansion down the 460 corridor and out to 26.
I think this one can probably be done just by petition of the landowner, but we need to have that line of communication with the county saying, look, it probably makes the most sense.
The elementary school is looking at wanting to come in town too, because right now we're paying out of town
Right.
sewer rates.
And kind of what we've worked on, we've taken that into consideration.
Yeah. And it's a whole lot easier to rezone or move on land as opposed to once you put 120 residents on it.
Tori, you have anything you want to
I
add?
would just say it would be ideal to take in that property as well as the elementary school. I think we just need the school to petition for that, just like the Lincoln would need a petition. But since the proximity is so close, it would be ideal.
Do you think they would like to do that?
Which one?
The school system?
Yeah.
Anybody
I would
talk to
think
them?
I would think they would appreciate it and reduce costs to
Yeah,
the school.
Jerry and them were supposed to be,
Well,
they
that's,
were supposed to be working on all that on the town side, but
Yeah.
they hadn't got
Yes, that's it.
Ms. Puckett,
I have a couple things. One thing, we've had another accident over on Lee Grant in the sidewalks. And I know we talked about that and had said something about getting those sidewalks looked after. I think it's imperative we get busy on that because one of these days, somebody's gonna get hurt real bad and we're gonna end up with a lawsuit. And I think we're on borrowed time. My understanding was that Mary Lou was trying to get a consensus. I haven't heard any more. Where do we stand?
Well, we've previously, Hurt and Profit has given an estimate. So Tori and I have talked to him about putting a bid out, but you're looking at $775,000. The handout you were provided tonight was kind of Tori's update. Tori and I did meet with Rick Youngblood earlier this week, and about seeing what kind of planning money was available, and pitched an idea of a bypass, but it's going to probably be $32 million and a long way out.
Is that around the county?
Yeah.
That sounds great. Let's pursue that. I'm sure $32 million is nothing for that. We can get state and county level. When everybody comes in together,
It's going to
that's
be
a done deal.
probably a lot of property acquisition. But anyway, so my guess is if it says 775, we know how things go. You're looking at 800,000 to 900,000, if not more, to do that. Rick is a firm believer that we could go back to smart scale and entertain that idea. But there needs to be more community involvement and building that I think maybe we didn't have with that project at the beginning. No fault to Tori or anybody else, because I think Tori has done a lot of outreach, and VDOT's willing to come back and spend a little time and invest some time and some money to look at it again. Because this fix of repaving and replacing the sidewalk is going to force us to have a conversation about creating a one-way road. And I'm not sure that's a discussion anybody wants to tackle. But I think we need to, yes, we need to make repairs. We're waiting for base to fix the holes that have been brought to our attention. So I think we need to kind of have a little more discussion on how we want to proceed.
I think we need to really get on this because if we keep kicking the can down the road, it's not a good idea.
No, it's not. And costs are just going to continue to rise. Tori, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'm fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I do, if you, the little report that I made up, it shows really some.
Okay.
Thank you, Tori.
thank you, Tori.
So I think it's a discussion we're going to need to have is, do you spend $1 million and then have people upset because all of a sudden we've changed it from two-way to one-way? Or is it worth the investment of time to go back and try to get some detailed, information to the neighbors to understand the pros and cons?
Yeah.
I think it would be good to talk with them because after all, it's going to affect me.
I'm not comfortable doing smart scale with this project at all because they're not thinking about our community. VDOT doesn't. So if their job is to think about the efficiency at the state level. From an efficiency perspective, we would tear down all of those houses and put in a 4-lane, arterial connector road from one side of the town to the other. That's the most efficient. But what we need to do is renovate it with the $1 million. We fix the sidewalk. We know that that's not the most efficient use of public money, but it is probably the best, especially when accounting for town residents and preserving the historic center of our community, which we have a historic, in the 90s, they felt strongly enough to pursue a historic designation. So we keep that, and then we also, if we would have, in 1975, built a reservoir on the other side of the Appomattox River for $5 million, we wouldn't have a water issue now. And I think truly $32 million, if it takes us 10 years to put that together with county and state resources, we will be, giving this council 10 years from now, giving us a thumbs up. So I think we need to fix it enough now, maybe make it one way, coordinate with the school district. It's going to be painful for a little bit probably. And then we also continue going full steam ahead, trying to identify resources to build a bypass.
I think our last conversation was to fix the sidewalk, fix the road, and get the buses off of it. I think
Yeah.
the buses gonna have to,
Yeah.
large vehicles, and that idea I like. I'm with Nathan on far as smart scale is gonna put us right back into taking people's property, taking out fences, trees, and it's gonna change the whole looks of it. I'm not, I thought we'd already decided to, as soon as we got prices on fixing the sidewalk and the road, we was gonna go forward with it.
So
And
you would
Mr.
like-
Baines was gonna give us 3 inches of his property, 3 more inches than what we already got.
So
to
what I'm
accommodate.
hearing is you would like staff to go ahead and proceed with the bid process, get this out there and get it going?
Yes.
And then I would
Yes.
strongly encourage us to continue with VDOT to look at the big picture of the bypass, because during that discussion, that could open a lot of things up. A lot of development potential.
Hundreds of acres of
Yep.
good real estate that we could, from the outset, we can make sure that we get a boundary line adjustment, and then we're building, that could be 1,000 new residents on that side of town. I mean,
But not just that, but commercial development.
yeah.
Which would be the best way to go if we did designate the street one way?
I think you
East
got,
to west.
you got
We already
this
got
much,
west to east.
you got this much street's gonna be one way,
Yeah.
and 2 tails of it's gonna be 2 ways, and it's just, I don't support that idea. I mean, it's, you can't make just that little 3, how many feet it is, I forgot.
700 feet.
Looking about
700
5 feet off both
one
sides of the
way.
road.
I mean, it just don't make, for people coming through here, it don't make any sense. I don't know. That's the way I feel, but.
Unless you look at the map and you make it not a through street and you have a turnaround at Burke Street.
But I think the biggest problem that the citizens that live on that street is the sidewalk condition
Yep.
and the big heavy trucks and vehicles. And if we get rid of that, whatever we gotta do to do it, I think that'll solve our initial problems and then work on this bypass.
Is there a way to communicate that with them? Like, this is what we're, just kind of keep them in the loop, or, I mean, as a courtesy, or is that just not appropriate?
Well, I
Keep
think we
moving
need
it.
to do something
Like
because.
Mr. Bain and them.
That's right. They need to-
They
Yeah.
kind of need to know what's going on, but I mean, I guess,
We gotta get.
Yeah, anytime you're impacting somebody's property or a neighborhood, it's in the locality's best interest. There should be outreach.
yeah,
There's got to be community buy-in. We have a comp plan due coming
because we
up.
kind of bypassed that
And I
one.
think we need to do a better job of trying to get public involvement in that process.
Okay.
I'd love to see us have a meeting with them.
I think it would let them, give them a little, not power, but it would make them feel informed, and that's
I
most
think
important.
then our
Feel
next
like
step
their
would be
voice is heard.
is to kind of have Hurt Private maybe draft us up a plan of where the new sidewalk's going to be, how wide it's going to be, anything else we want to, and then go have a meeting, an open house, if you will,
Yeah.
and say, this is where we're going. The next step is the direction. One way,
And give them
Which
time to
way?
chime in, not that
Exactly.
that would really impact, but it really could, I
Well,
mean,
it could. They might think of something we hadn't.
but I think we also need to involve the school board if you're talking about changing bus routes.
Yes.
And then we definitely need to post it with load limits and then work with the sheriff's department to make sure those are enforced.
yeah.
And the way I think
That's
about
right.
the, I call it the south side connector, but bypass, whatever you want to say, if the county, so we're talking about spending, whatever this is going to cost to renovate a building, $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever. If the county can also put together, they're renovating a building for $4.5 million right now. If we as a community can afford to do that on structures, and pretty much each of those projects have only been thought about for a couple of years, if we think about long-term, okay, the county can probably scrape together over the course, if we knew it's in our plan, next 10 years we can have $10 million or $15 million set aside at the county level, and we can have $5 million set aside at the town level. That's 15 right there, and then 50%
20.
match of state funds, that's your 30 million. And it changes the shape of the community, and it lets us keep our historic downtown, which is, it's super important to me and I think a lot of our
I
residents.
think to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have one other thing. When we did our budget and we agreed to give that percent that we've given to all these different organizations, it seems to me we need to have some accountability. I would like to see the folks that receive the money to come back and report to us exactly what they've done with the money. And what benefit they felt it was to them. Because we've handed out to so many people. I think that we are responsible to know that it's been spent properly, that it's been used well.
And that, I hate to interrupt, so like with this letter, this is kind of what you want maybe? Like it shows they're planning to invest the funding into the Fall Festival and the Christmas Open House, that kind of thing?
Yeah, something.
I mean,
Yeah.
Something,
This
so
is
we
extra.
could show the
Right.
public when some people are gonna fuss about it anyway. And you just say, well, this is why we gave it to these folks, and this is why, this is what they've done with it.
Well, I think like when
I think
they
it would help
asked
us.
for it, they kind of gave, some of them, kind of said, well, we need it because A, B, C, and D. But, you're right, I guess you could ask.
But if they've spent it that way, or if they've done something else, we
Right.
don't have any
We don't know.
reins on any of that. And I think we need to have something.
The spectrum of that, though, is all the way from what could be a feel-good letter back from them
Right.
like that, or some localities require audits, at least biannually, if you're going to ask for continued funding. So, and they usually give, in addition to their funding, they might give $1,000 to go towards an audit every other year. And the bigger organizations like Civil War Museum, because of the amount of receipts they collect, they have to do an audit anyway. But others that we give money to don't. So it's just
Well,
what,
I'd just like to see
what thing.
where they spent it, even if it's copy of receipt, whatever. That they did what they said they were going to do with it.
You did a good old data mining to see who
Back it up.
used their credit card at the Civil War Museum
Without
and a
audit,
restaurant.
It's just a feel-good
To see
on
what
their,
we got back.
kinda on their
Well,
honor.
you need some.
Yeah,
feel
it
like-
is nice that, I think it's interesting that, we got that letter and that you brought that up because it is kind of nice, You wonder, yeah, they told us that's what they wanted it for, but you don't know.
Do you feel, I'm sorry, do you all feel that, when you do give a donation, usually they come back the next year and give you a review of what they've done? The ones who repeat?
Yeah.
So, do you feel like that kind of happens?
I'd like something in writing that we could put with,
What- Even if they come and speak personally?
Yes.
I'd like to see us have something in writing where we could put that with the record and show what's actually happened with the funding.
Okay, I'll say, if that satisfies the council, financials are satisfied. I'm just saying that is not required for financials, but that's a personal request by
That
the
would be something I think to
council.
help us.
That's up to council.
If it's just, and we're just interpreting it as they gave us this, they are saying that they did it with this based on their honor system, whatever, and we're not requiring any sort of financials. Just, this is how we spent the money, it's a letter from us, and we're gonna sign it, you trust us, basically. That's fine with me too, but,
Do you think we need to go deeper?
I think that it's a burden to ask for an audit, especially on, $1,000 or $2,000 donations. And Timmy said something that stuck with me a long time ago. I think it was my first year on council. I was like, well, why don't we require an audit from the fire department? He said, well, if you don't trust us to manage the money that you give us, you probably shouldn't trust us to save you from, your house burning down. So, I get that, at least with the current people on the fire department. Now, I don't know, 20 years from now, it might be new
You
people.
might
but-
think differently.
We get reconciled every month and reconciled with books due and we get audited every year. So
That's right.
nothing to hide in the real conversation.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. Mr. Garrett,
I don't have anything.
Mr. Boyce.
Just a reminder to council that VML is coming up in October. And if you've not had the opportunity to go to VML, you ought to check it out. And kind of maybe taking the time to ask Miss Cindy to stay alert for when the registration comes up, that we can make sure that we get our reservations to go for whomever wants to go. I know with me, it's always been me and my wife, and I'd like to see us get to the point where maybe 1 year, just 1 year, we could go down there and put up some kind of display that would show Pennington Gap that they're not the only successful little town in Virginia. Just once.
You're right.
That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Ms. Allen?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I'm just asking, if you don't have an update, you don't have an update. Any email back from VDOT about the crosswalk? Or
No, but we did have a conversation about that with Mr. Youngblood this week, and he was going to see if he could follow up for us.
Okay, as long as it's talked about, that's
Yep.
fine.
It's not forgotten.
And we already talked, Mary Lou had mentioned to me a community concern about some mice, and Rob's already handled that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a house and you could visually see rodents coming in and out and stuff, but he's handled it. What about any sidewalk grants? Following up on that, and I wanted just, have you looked at any of those? I know you're busy. I'm just gonna be.
I was told to put it in an email to VDOT to create a chain, and during our discussion, it was talked about why we submit things and we don't seem to get timely follow-up.
Okay.
And so, yes,
Yeah, I just say keep bringing it up until somebody, you hear something, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and Terry had mentioned before, he met with somebody about accessible playground equipment. I don't know if it ever happened, never got included in that, but I'd asked about that. He had a guy that he had talked to. I mean, this was like when
Handicap stuff.
yeah. And Jeff was kind of involved in it, and they were kind of, I think Terry had kind of taken, I just didn't know if there was an email somewhere we could follow up on that.
We can certainly look.
Okay, and of course, maybe I don't remember, but where were we on the depot landscaping? We were putting bids out? Or is that in an email somewhere and I haven't seen it yet?
No, Mary Lou and I did meet with RSG representatives.
Oh, okay,
And there's supposed to be 2 more that are going to come in and look.
okay,
They've all said it's got to be a fall project.
yeah,
And they all understand that all these firms are design built, so we're not going to have to pay for a landscape architect, because to me, we're just spending money.
right.
When a company that knows what they're doing can design it and
do
give
it.
us a price and do it all together. So, yeah.
And then when you say fall, I think about like the Railroad Festival. Would it be before or after? And you know how that
Typically,
could be-
September, October is a good planning time.
Okay.
So yes, I'd
It
certainly
wouldn't mean
hope,
it would be done, that's when it would be planned, and then in the spring probably done.
I don't see why if we go with a design build firm, as long as we don't get too elaborate, we couldn't
knock it
sign
out.
something and get it going.
Gotcha. Okay, I was just curious. That's it. That's all. That's
Yeah,
enough.
we've tried to look at every angle from proposals, but the problem with proposals is we know it's going to be over a certain amount, so it's going to have to be bid.
Gotcha.
So we're just trying to make it as efficient as possible to do that.
I appreciate all you're doing for
I
us.
think it's kind of like the HVAC. I'm trying to get somebody to come do all our buildings and maintenance. Unfortunately, the past 2 weeks, it's kind of hard to get HVAC out of here to even think about trying to make a plan, but they show up when we need a repair made, and we've had a couple major repairs, so yeah, I'm hoping to move forward on that as well.
Thank you, Rob. Anything else, Ms. Allen?
I'm good. Thank you.
Just a note, we have been extended an invitation from the Appomattox Volunteer Fire Department. They're hosting a recognition ceremony for their Fire One students who recently completed over 200 hours of training and become certified. The ceremony will be held at the ACHS Auditorium on Saturday, July 27th at 4 p.m. Please RSVP if you would like to attend. Mr. Fowler has forwarded that to each of your emails via Ms. Miller. Thank you, Cindy. Let's pray for Mary Lou, as always. Y'all probably have all heard about that. She fell into her yard and broke her shoulder. Anyway,
Broke her
broke her
arm.
arm, excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you. All righty, council standing committee reports, finance,
Nothing tonight.
infrastructure, ARPA. We're gonna use it as soon as we figure out what we're gonna use it on.
And the clock's ticking.
Staff reports, Ms. Treasurer.
I'm going to just kind of give you an overview. This is the last report for the end of the year, but the end of the year is not complete for us because we cannot close these books until at least August 15th, due to that's how compliance works. I'm going to say with the general fund, it looks like it's a negative $36,483, $36,000. I do not think that's going to be where it rests. I have a prediction, but I'm scared to say because y'all might hold it to it. But, it's going to be in the black because we collect sales tax, meals tax, and lodging tax 1 month in arrears. So I have not even collected June's taxes yet. Okay. So it's going to flip back. So after completion of the revenue, I do expect us to be back in the black there. So in expenses, we are still running dual systems, 2 budgets. We have to run 2 budgets for 45 days. So we have to separate and work out of 2 budgets right now. So numbers will not settle down until well after August 15th. I think I mentioned the 3 that we expect, again, more revenue on: meals tax, sales tax, and lodging tax. So actually, sales tax, it takes 45 days later to get that from June. We won't even see sales tax for June until August. That comes through the county. As far as the water fund, not knowing exactly any other repair bills that we may get or anything, I'm thinking we still should be close to break even this year for water. And hopefully that'll stay in the black. That's always been a rough area for us, but I think that our rate increases are finally taking hold against our expenses. I don't think it's anything to plan a year-end party for, but I think it's still kind of balancing itself out. As far as the sewer, which we chose not to increase the rates, it's always been a little stronger. We've had quite a bit of grant money, millions and millions of grant money. So we've been fortunate that we haven't needed to go into our own operating fund for sewer. So that one is pretty strong. As far as the reason I think too that the water and sewer sales, you have to realize when we have revenue a little above what we had projected, it's because of new construction. Those connection fees, we've well exceeded what we budgeted for connection availability fees because people are paying for hookups. And that's money you can't budget, it's just icing on the cake. So I think that has helped. So if we can continue the growth and with the rate increase, I think we can hold this. So just food for thought as we were talking about growth and boundary lines and things like that. As far as the cash account, just wanted to remind you that we do have that CD designated specifically for the town anniversary. The balance is $871.87. It renews each April, but if we need to take it out, I don't think the penalty is going to be so great on it that I would worry about it. If you need it before next April, okay? So that is still there. It renews every year. As far as other financial matters, just wanted to give y'all a little update on things going on. We are preparing to we've extracted the taxes from the county system, and the book, which we call the tax roll, has been certified to me by the Commissioner of Revenue. So we are getting ready. I have an appointment on July 30th to upload our taxes into our financial system and recertify that we balance to the county. That's an every year ritual. So we're ready and in the process of moving files over and certifying and balancing to get ready to send out tax tickets. So we've done that. Just wanted to mention for transparency that we had an IRS audit. We went in there, I went in there, we argued, and we have no penalty and no violation. I just kind of argue them on through it. So,
Nice.
Get them. Get them.
Then we also had a sighting that I couldn't win, so I gave you the good news first. I couldn't win that one because of the age of it. That sighting was made back during COVID. I didn't know about it in the financial department. If I'd known, I would have tried. But I think for the time and the penalty, I don't think we could have gotten a good fight on that one. It was 3 years old. So if you argue, it runs the clock and the penalty and interest even more. And for it to be 3 years old, I hadn't seen it, I didn't think I could argue that one. So we had to kind of bite the bullet on that one. It was a deduction that was not available to municipalities for COVID. And if the financial area would have known it, I would have addressed it sooner, but I didn't see it until it was 3 years old. So. Utility rate increase is on the current invoice that you'll be receiving. So utility increase has been placed and bills have been, wait a minute, am I ahead? They're not, okay, they'll come out at the end of this month. Okay, good, okay. Yeah, so you'll see an increase on your next bill for the rate increase that you pre-approved. As far as, we have a new time card system, you notice that the time cards are gone. They're virtual and they're at your desk and on an app now, so we do not have any more paper time cards anymore. That has been tested and now it's truly implemented as of July 1. The inventory audit went well. It was very quick. They came in and that was probably the quickest one I've ever seen in the 7 years I've been here. We've already started with our pre-audit and our audit dates, which I've listed there. I just came out of the pre-audit last week. We have been given the next 2 dates that we need to be prepared for. We did a virtual, and then in July, August, Brown Edwards, our outside auditors, will be here in the conference room. Then, no, the pre-audit is a virtual again, and then October, they will physically be on the premises. As far as grant status, just wanted to let you know that as far as I know, the downtown revitalization has been closed. I think I have another form they want me to do, but I'll just keep doing forms until they say it's closed. But wanted to remind you, and you already talked about it, ARPA does need to be obligated by December the 31st and spent by December the 31st, 2026. But it needs to be obligated by this December 31st, okay? As far as the sewer fund, you remember the grant that's haunted us for 10 to 12 years? We're down to 20-some thousand. I can't remember if that grant was 11 million or we have 20-some thousand. David has been very active trying to use that money for the REIT bids over at the sewer plant. So we're trying to close that down finally and be done with it. As far as donations, you all were talking about the recipients that you voted and approved for before. They are in process. We just queued them up to go out this week to all the recipients for their donations for the year.
You got time to put a letter with it?
I can,
Again.
again,
Asking them for the,
okay, if you all want to give me a little bit more direction as far as do you want them to come in a certain time period or tell me?
something in writing.
Okay, but do you want them to come in at the next meeting or by the end of the year?
I'd
Which
say
would be
make
midway?
it a condition, so we can't kind of Monday morning quarterback the last set of money we gave, but what we can do is set it as a condition of future funding. So we can send them a letter and say, hey, look, if you want to be considered for future donation requests from the town, we kindly request that you send us in writing what you use the money for, just confirming, tell us, have you used it yet or whatever, what do you plan? And we can also track next year, whoever doesn't send us a letter, we can exclude from funding requests.
Now, are you saying that we have an application they have to fill out?
Right.
And would we like to put that on the new
Yes.
application?
Yes.
Yes.
For next year?
I
Yes.
think that would be
Okay,
appropriate.
all right. So we'll just place that on the,
And yeah, you could say if, upon receipt of,
If you could send us a letter by September 1st,
okay.
what you used it on.
Okay. Okay. we have a potential new payment process. I've heard a lot of people were interested in seeing could they have automatic draft for water sewer utility. We are having a meeting on, the first Wednesday, golly. Okay, Wednesday, we're gonna have a remote conversation because the software is offering that. Our concern as staff was that if you have a water leak, it's gonna draft from your account. And so we don't have always the same amount. So there may be some, we're gonna see what options are there. They were trying to tell me that there's an opportunity 10 days before, you'll get notification, we're preparing to draft this amount. So we're gonna talk to them tomorrow and see.
Yeah, that would work, like, things
Yeah.
like me, unless it's set, I don't want it drafted from me.
Right, right.
Because, I mean,
Yeah, 20,000 kind of blow the account up.
And that was our concern with.
unless you got a whole lot of money, that's reckless budgeting, I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll find out more, and I think initially I did ask them if we see something really crazy, can we stop it on this end? And they
Yeah.
said, like, if we see somebody get ready to get drafted $1,000, for a residential account, because they've had a water leak. So we'll find out
It's not a bad idea, but even if it was like saving paper, unless you got a text message, which not everybody texts.
See,
You know what I
that's-
mean? It's kind of like a double billing, and you're still billing because you're getting a piece of paper about what your bill's gonna be. I don't know.
Yeah, but what you can stop it
Theirs
too.
is electronic now.
Dominion,
But,
you have it on auto pay. They send me 2 weeks in advance
Okay.
what the
What the
bill
bill
amount
is.
is.
That's, okay, and this, you have to elect the end, so it's not everybody, you have to sign up for this.
You have to
Gotcha.
opt in for it.
Yeah, so we'll see tomorrow more of what the product is like, and we'll decide.
It's a nice thing to have. It's
Yeah,
very up to
yeah.
date for people that do that.
Is this, you said it was virtual,
When you say virtually.
the
you mean-
meeting tomorrow?
Yeah, well, yes.
What time?
I
I don't know if it's,
think it's 9:30. Yeah, I think it's 9:30.
okay, I might be,
Yeah. We're gonna be up in the, we're gonna all be in the customer
Oh, okay.
service area, just hearing about the product and the features to see if it fits what we feel like our citizens would like. Yeah. Last thing is, we had some damage at the sewer plant. And David and I decided that we probably, even though the company that made the damage or did the damage, said that they would do the right thing, but I thought we better make a claim reverse in case. So we did make a claim, things were going well, and then sure enough, here's a dispute at the end. So I got that today, so I will be pursuing that since it's a financial loss to one of our buildings. So, not the buildings, but our property. So I will be probably getting our insurance company involved and listen about that.
let them earn their money.
Are you comfortable saying what happened? What was the loss that we?
It was 3 incidents, and I got affidavits from all of the guys who were involved, and Versa did pick it up so they can fight for us, but pole was knocked down, the gate was broken,
Jeez.
a latch was broken.
By the same person?
Different drivers coming in and out from the same company.
Oh.
Yeah, 3 times in and out the property, rutted the ground. The drivers had some issues evidently, but every time they would come in to deliver, they would tear up something.
And they don't have those issues with anybody else, just that company?
That day, that's 3, it was 3 times.
3 in one day?
Yeah.
So I felt we better,
Wow.
yeah, we better make a claim on that.
That's when you clock out and go home. You're like, we're shutting down today.
So I think from the email I received that they were disputing the last repair. I did receive 2 checks, but they were disputing the last repair. So I'm gonna get our company to dispute with them. Cool. But we did file that just in case. So that's all I think I have on financials.
You get audit dates at the bottom? Or is that part of
What's that?
the last item on the,
Oh, yes, I think that was a duplicate, I'm sorry.
okay,
That
not a
was
problem.
duplicate.
Not a problem. Anything we don't have to do or wait for, we're in good shape. All right. Mr. Fowler.
Yeah,
Town manager.
DMV has requested permission to move some outlets, to add some electrical outlets. And in their lease, it does require that the landlord grant something in writing. Is the council comfortable with me giving permission for that? They've been working with David Carter, He's been trying to walk them through it. They know they're gonna use a licensed electrician. So are we comfortable with approving that?
Any opposition? Move forward, sir.
Try to get back to giving you a weekly update pretty soon. I think staff has done a great job stepping up and filling in. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're getting there, and then we appreciate your support.
Thank you for all you're doing,
Thank you.
all of you.
Would you be, not necessarily, agreeable isn't the right word, but would you welcome, I guess, if council were to give you the go-ahead and set aside some money for someone to look at our IT and security cameras? Would that be helpful?
Yes, and speaking of cameras, the library did send an email today, and I haven't talked to her yet. They want to place a camera on the depot,
Who?
the library.
Just as like a fun, feel-good citizen
I think
thing?
just to watch the train. I will call her tomorrow and get a little more detail.
Watch the train or the trains on the
The
train?
trains, I guess.
The trains.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a live
They're always
feed or.
doing fun stuff at the
Yeah,
library.
I don't know if it's live feed snapshots, but I'll find out more, but,
That's cool.
They probably have some kind of cool idea.
yeah,
As long as it's not like deep state facial recognition.
Yeah,
yeah.
Are we trying to hide something now?
No.
they're doing all kinds
The
of things.
NSA already knows
Yeah,
that.
and Tori has been in contact with our current phone provider because there is some
Not everything.
updated camera systems that they offer. And I know she was trying to schedule a meeting with them to get a proposal. So it could do the parks, it could do pretty much every town property. It might just require some Wi-Fi installation, but I'll follow up with her and find out if she's had any more contact with them.
All done? Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any more business to come before the Appomattox Town Council at this time?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Motion made, properly seconded, adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Meeting's adjourned.